Today's video is going to be about the various laws and executive orders that have been passed related to cryptocurrency. This was a question that Patricia Crosby had asked, and I think it's something that all of us are interested in, because the concept of digital money, it's kind of scary to most of us. I hope you guys understand that all of this that's happening are like pulling out a card in this huge, complex house of cards. Tell me what you think, but it's beginning to look a lot like moves are being made in many areas to stop the ability to commit fraud and steal from others. But that's just one part of it. Another part of this house of cards deals with the world, living in peace, and that's what you're seeing going on with the various takeovers and wars. Still, another section of this enormous house of cards will heal the people and teach them to heal. There's many aspects. Our children need to learn respect and humility. We have generational damage that has occurred here, and I really believe that when this is all over, we will have the foundation for a new era of exploration and evolution. Clearly, money is the root of all evil. We've heard it so many times. That doesn't mean that money is evil, guys. It means that in the wrong hands, it can be used for evil. So the move to cryptocurrency transferred by quantum computers and protected with quantum encryption is going to lead us into a society where theft will be virtually impossible. But I don't think we're there yet. I think that foundations are being laid, and like everything else we're seeing in this war to take back our world, I think cryptocurrency will eventually become at least one option for currency, but I think that's many years down the road. Let's take a look at these laws. You're going to be hearing the term CBDC. If you're not familiar with it, that means Central Bank Digital Currency, which is a digital form of a country's fiat money, which would be issued and backed directly by that country's central bank. The CBDC would be a legal tender along with or instead of a physical cash. To be clear, let's define fiat money. It's a government-issued currency that isn't backed by any sort of physical commodities, such as gold, silver, or even oil. Basically, fiat currency is what most countries run on, including the United States. It's the Federal Reserve's ability to print money out of thin air. It's not hard to imagine the amount of theft that can occur when an entity is allowed to print money with nothing backing it whatsoever. So CBDC, or central bank digital currency, is a cryptocurrency that isn't backed by anything and is used as a country's legal tender. Doesn't that sound like a recipe for legalized theft? Now that we know that, let's look at what Joe Biden did first. Does it surprise you to learn that Joe Biden signed one primary executive order that was related to cryptocurrency and central bank digital currency? It was in March 2020. The executive order directed federal agencies to place the highest urgency on research and development into a United States central bank digital currency, or CBDC, issued by the Federal Reserve. The order also encouraged the Federal Reserve to continue ongoing research and planning related to CBDC. This was Executive Order 14,067, but no legislation was enacted that actually authorized CBDC. When Donald Trump came in and we learned about the use of the auto pen to sign executive orders, President Trump signed over 250 executive orders in his first term, but he wasn't focused on cryptocurrency at that time. 3 days after he took office for the second time, President Trump wrote an executive order which revoked Biden's executive order and established policies for responsible growth of digital assets and blockchain. More importantly, that first order banned United States central bank digital currency development. The bill also creates the President's Working Group on Digital Asset Markets, which is an interagency group, to make recommendations for how we're going to regulate them and promote United States dollar-backed stablecoins. The group will also evaluate a national digital asset stockpile and directs all agencies to review current crypto-related rules. A strategic reserve asset is a commodity that our government deliberately holds on a long-term basis for our benefit in case of an emergency. So basically, it's like a nest egg and an actual positive amount of money in the government coffers, should we need it. This brings up another term that we probably want to define, and that is, how is a stablecoin different from cryptocurrency? Well, a stablecoin is really a type of cryptocurrency or digital money that's designed to stay at one steady value, usually $1, and it's tied to something stable, like the US dollar or gold. Cryptocurrency, on the other hand, can have rapid changes in its value from day to day and is more suitable as an investment. Stable coins are more suitable for everyday spending, not long-term investment. Add quantum technology to it, and it becomes an extremely secure stable currency. It's not so wild when you understand these things and what they actually mean. So now, when you see all of the disinformation about CBDC, which has already begun to be echoed, you'll have a clearer picture of what it is and how such a move will continue to enslave us. Next, we'll look at the second executive order signed by President Trump 2 months later, in March of 2025, and this executive order is called the Establishment of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and U.S. Digital Asset Stockpile. This mandate is apparently based on the results of the working group that was established back in January, and this EO creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which will be treated as a national reserve asset. It's already worth 200,000 bitcoins, which is the fruit of Bitcoin seizures and penalties that the U.S. government obtained through asset forfeiture of drug traffickers, dark web marketplaces, hacking and ransom attacks, scams, money laundering, and even civil cases where people have violated the law and had to pay penalties in Bitcoin. Rather than missing money with no accountability that has been the rule, all of this seized money will be accounted for and used for the benefit of Americans. This one move of creating the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve has established money for the U.S. government to distribute the Nasara Jubilee to Americans described many years ago by number 17. In addition to the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, the same executive order establishes a separate U.S. digital asset stockpile for other seized cryptocurrencies. Before Trump's executive order, the government would sell seized Bitcoin at auction, Gap 1.x. Now Trump says, don't sell it. Move it into a reserve account. Think about this. They were selling off these seized assets at a significant loss, which made us completely dependent on the Federal Reserve for money. These strategic reserves begin to give us clarity about how Nasara and the Golden Age will free Americans from the debt mechanism. Now here's the good news for some of you who have lost money in crypto scams. This particular executive order allows some of the Bitcoin reserve to go to identifiable and verifiable victims of crime, including victims of ransomware attacks where the hackers demanded Bitcoin. It also includes people who lost money in specific hack or fraud cases like the Bitfinex hack, and it includes customers whose funds were stolen in a particular exchange, collapse, or scam tied to forfeited assets. So, it's very specific to some of these crimes where crypto was seized, but if you lost money, you might want to look into it. You must have reported the crime, and you could be notified by the U.S. Attorney's Office if you are a known victim, but you can also check eligibility and claim compensation at the Department of Justice by following a petition for remission or mitigation, and I'll link that form in the description of this video. The last thing the order does is it authorizes the Treasury to make budget-neutral acquisitions for additional Bitcoin that will not cost the taxpayers anything. In fact, the reserve cannot be spent except in 4 specific conditions, one of which is victim compensation. So this is great news, and the start of the people being compensated for what we've been through. The last executive order that President Trump signed was on July 18, 2025, and it's called the GENIUS Act. GENIUS stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. This is the first federal law just for stablecoins, and it establishes strict rules to assure that all stablecoin created has 100% backing in real dollars or U.S. Treasury bills. They must report every month and follow safety checks. This law basically makes stablecoins much safer, but it keeps them privately issued rather than government issued. In fact, the Genius Act also reiterates that stablecoins are not a national currency. They're like private dollars backed by real U.S. dollars, but the government doesn't issue them. What this does is it helps prevent future fraud related to stablecoins, allowing them to grow while blocking a government-controlled digital national currency. So in a nutshell, the laws that President Trump passed don't create a national digital currency. In fact, they do just the opposite by preventing one. The second executive order establishes two different crypto reserves, which are like savings accounts for the people of the U.S., and authorizes payment to those that have been ripped off by poorly regulated crypto scams. And the third executive order fixes that problem of easy theft because it has no backing, and it creates laws that make it much more difficult to rip Americans off with cryptocurrency. That's where it stands, and I think it's a good idea to keep an eye on this, but with the rapid-fire changes across all sectors of the infrastructure, it's a challenge to keep up with this administration, but we'll do our best. If you like my videos, please don't forget the thumbs up. I'm already on YouTube's shit list, so we want to kind of get back in their good graces. And if you choose to subscribe to my channel, it's important to also hit that bell, so that you'll be informed of additional content that I can't safely post on YouTube. Until next time, everything is moving, albeit very slowly, but I really understand why it had to be this way. Every action by the administration has a reaction, and we've just got to let the game play out. So until next time, the weekend predictions played out with the loss and rescue of the pilot from Iran. When all these dates and numbers fit together, you really have to wonder if all of this, even an event such as a downed fighter jet, isn't all being played out for our benefit. I was a little disappointed about the additional 2-week extension, but if I were betting, I'd say something is gonna happen before that. Please send your love to the people of these countries, and especially to our own Susan Nachman in Israel, who shared that the cluster bombs that Iran is attacking them with are causing a lot of damage, and she's having to go into the shelter 4 times a day or so. If you live in the States, be grateful and have compassion for these patriots who are fighting for their freedom across the world, and always remember that where we go one, we go all.